Welcome to the Create More Intimacy podcast. I'm Elisa Stoddard, and I help men stop chasing sex and start building real connection so they finally feel close, connected, and wanted again. Welcome to Create More Intimacy, a podcast for men. I'm your host, Elisa Stoddard, and this is episode 13. Obligation sex isn't worth having. Today, we're talking about something a lot of men never say out loud, but they feel it in their gut. It's that moment right after sex when she rolls over and you're lying there with a pit in your stomach. You got what you wanted, maybe, but it didn't feel good because deep down, it didn't feel like she wanted you. It felt like she gave in, or did it out of duty, or because you've been hinting and helping around the house and trying so hard, and she finally said, fine, and gave in. That isn't connection. That is not closeness. It's not the kind you want, anyway. And let's be honest, it doesn't feel good for either of you. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what's actually happening when sex starts to feel transactional and why it's not better than nothing. It's actually hurting the relationship, and what you can do instead, especially if you want sex, but you also want to feel chosen, respected, and wanted again. Let's get into it. How does sex become transactional and why that doesn't work? I want you to really hear something I say today. Most men don't set out to create a transactional dynamic in their relationship, but it's exactly what ends up happening. If you help around the house, or you try to be more thoughtful, or you make compliments about how beautiful she is, or you comment about how long it's been, hoping she'll take the hint, if you touch her back or brush her hip or linger a little longer, all of those things, when that happens, you start to feel resentful. Like, I'm doing all of the things, all the right things, right? Why don't you want me? What you may not realize is this. That entire dynamic has become a transaction, and you're doing things in hopes that they will earn you sex. She can feel it, even if you don't say it out loud. And that unspoken pressure absolutely kills the desire that you are hoping to spark. Let's call it what it is. When you expect something physical from her in exchange for your help or your kindness, that's a transaction. And if that were really the setup, you could just skip all this frustration and go pay somebody. But I know that's not what you want. It's not just about the release, because if it were, you could just take care of yourself in the shower, right? What you want, what you actually are craving, is to feel wanted, to feel loved, and to feel close. That's what you're reaching for in those moments. But you've been taught that sex is how you get it, or the only way that you get it. And if you just had more sex, then you'd feel more loved, right? More connected, more secure, more like yourself. But it doesn't work like that. Sex isn't the gateway to connection. Connection is what makes sex meaningful. Here's where it gets to be a challenge, because she sees things completely differently. She wants to feel emotionally safe and seen and appreciated before she even thinks about wanting sex. That's when desire can show up for her. So now, if you're stuck in a loop that you want sex to feel loved and she wants connection to feel desire, then nobody is getting what they want and need. How do we shift it then from this transaction dynamic to true connection? This dynamic where sex becomes loaded with pressure and disappointment or confusion even doesn't mean your relationship is broken beyond repair. What it does mean is that something has to shift. That old model of you helping around the house or being extra nice or giving her compliments, hoping maybe she'll say yes, that model isn't working. You aren't a bad partner, but it never really was the path to intimacy in the first place. It's time to stop chasing sex as the solution. What you are actually craving isn't sex solely. It's closeness, it's warmth, it's connection, it's feeling like you matter to her, like you're wanted again. Here's the shift you need to make. When you stop trying to earn sex and start trying to build genuine connection with her, that's where the shift starts. That's where things start to change. You stop measuring your worth by how often she says yes. You stop pressuring her without even realizing it. And you stop swinging between frustration and shutdown. And instead, you start noticing where you're disconnected, and you start paying attention to what makes her feel safe and open. You start creating intimacy in a way where you talk to her and respond to her and that you actually see her. When you do that consistently, not to get something, but because you want to be someone who knows how to create that emotional safety in your relationship, that's where things begin to shift. Desire is no longer buried underneath a whole bunch of pressure. You stop walking on eggshells so much, and instead of obligation sex, you get the connection-driven intimacy you really want, which honestly feels totally different and much more satisfying. Redefining intimacy is so much bigger than you think it is. And before we take a look at what it actually looks like, I want to speak to something that doesn't get said often enough. This pattern, where you're trying and still feel shut down, I know it hurts. It chips away at your confidence, and it makes you feel like you're failing at something that you were never taught how to do, maybe. You want her to notice you, and you want to feel desirable, not just like a roommate or a handyman or a paycheck. And sometimes you go about it in the only way you know how, which often ends up feeling more like a teenage boy hoping to get lucky than a grown man expressing what he really needs. That's not an insult. I'm telling you that because what I see is a lack of tools, a lack of skill. And nobody taught you how to be emotionally intimate. They never taught you how to express desire without pressure. And nobody has showed you that that connection has to come first. It's not sex that's going to come first. So when she pulls away and when she avoids your touch and turns her back to you at night, I know it stings. And what do most men do with that kind of sting? They either shut down or they double down. And neither of those approaches work. I had a client once who told me he just felt invisible in his own house. And he said, I'm trying to be helpful and I'm doing everything I can think of. And still, she doesn't see me. He started to get angry and he felt a lot of shame. And that quiet rejection over and over again began to leave a mark. It messed with his sense of worth. And most of all, the most painful part of this is it makes you start to question whether something's wrong with you. But I want you to know nothing is wrong with you. You're just stuck in a pattern that doesn't work. And no one has ever brought it up and shown you how to break it. So that's what we're going to do here. So what do you do when you want more than just a yes, an obligatory yes? If you know you've been stuck in this pattern of like waiting and hinting and hoping and touching her and saying crass jokes and things like that, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. It's just an invitation for you to show up differently. Those tactics are super high school, by the way. Start being honest with yourself. What are you really wanting when you reach for her? I know your immediate response is, well, I want it to lead to sex, but I want you to start shifting that to, I want to feel close. I want to know that she still wants me, and I want to stop feeling like a burden. If you can start saying those things, then good, I know you're telling the truth. When you stop making it about the act and start getting honest about the emotion underneath, that's when things shift. This is the kind of work I do with men all the time. It's not about becoming more romantic or learning to say the right words. It's about learning how to create connection without playing the game, without manipulation, and without walking on eggshells. It's just honest and steady, emotionally mature leadership that you bring to the relationship. And when that happens, that's when desire becomes even possible again. Not out of obligation, but because she feels something again, and so do you. That's true connection. If you're tired of feeling like you have to trade favors for affection, if you're tired of the pressure and the guessing and the silence and then the shame, then let's talk. You can book a call with me at elisastoddard.com/podcast, and this is where you get to bring your real situation, and I'll help you see exactly what's going on and how to start changing it. You don't have to keep going through the motions, and you don't have to keep wondering if this is just how it's going to be forevermore. There is a better way, and I can help you figure it out. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being here. If something in this episode hit home, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more men find the support they need. And if you are ready to get help or take the next step, you'll find the link to book a free call in the show notes. I'll see you next time.